Hey everybody, Rhadamant here. Thanks for tuning in to the very first episode of Kerbal Space Program, which originally aired live on Twitch. If you have any questions about this series, please refer to the video description. I just wanted to say ahead of time that this is not vanilla. I've already done some Kerbal Space Program on YouTube, so I figured instead of doing yet another vanilla one, even though there's been some updates since the last time I played, alternatively, I am going to play a modded series. So this series will have life support and colonization primarily. Monsieur Joey Liquid, Fangface, Pinpoint, Flame Wheel, thank you guys. So the mods that I'm using here, it's kind of hard to show you without exiting the game because there's not like a built-in mod menu. But as you can see, there are some new choices here, Wolf and Colonization. So I am using, and the mod list is right here, mods and about. So I'm using MechJeb 2. Any Kerbal Space Program player will probably be intimately familiar with MechJeb. MechJeb is sort of like a autopilot of sorts. Does a lot more than that. I'm not going to be relying too heavily on MechJeb though, because I like to be the pilot, for better or for worse. Come explosions or whatever. Pinpoint, Fangface, Angelia, and Dennis Keith with a whole bunch of gifted subs. Thank you all. And then if you take a look at the mod list, we also have the USI Life Support. What that does is it requires your Kerbals to be supplied. Basically, they require supplies to survive. So the sort of concept there is that you can't do a multi-month or multi-year mission out in space without, the food and water, that kind of stuff. And then the last mod that I have is the colonization one, which is the Modular colonization system. And that mod adds a ton of colonization, parts, so that you can farm and you can mine and you can build machinery from scratch and really very cool systems like that. Now, the caveat is I'm probably not going to, within 5 hours, get to a point where I am significantly colonizing. But if this gets upvoted in the future, we can tap into that. I am going to play on basically the colonization normal difficulty, except for I'm going to enable... no, let's not do colonist rescues. Let's just hire them. And we have a core cost, the alternate costs, everything basically default here. And we will accept. Save name, Yoda Space Program. And we'll be on career. So there are 3 types of modes here. One is sandbox, where you have all technology unlocked to you and infinite money. Science is where you have to launch missions to unlock technology, but you have money. And then career is you basically have to unlock everything. Now I'm only on normal difficulty, so it should be pretty easy to unlock things. If you are not familiar with Kerbal Space Program, I am definitely rusty. In fact, it even says so up in the About menu. I will be doing my very best to try to answer all the questions that you might have. But with that in mind, there's a lot of technical terms that I'm sure I'm going to get wrong. So you start off with a tiny little campus, I guess you could call it. And let me go over the things that are on the campus. You have your launch pad, where you launch basically rockets that go vertical. And then you have your runway, which you launch, planes. We've got a space plane hangar, where you would build planes in here. I'm just going to ignore the tooltips there. And then let's back out of this. We have the vehicle assembly building, the VAB here, which builds rockets. We have the mission control, which allows you to take on contracts and be paid in science, reputation, and money for the missions that you complete. We have the astronaut complex, where you can hire new, and this will look a little bit different due to the mods that I have running, where you can hire new Kerbals if you get your originals killed or if you need a larger crew. And as you can see, there is colonist, miner, technician, mechanic, biologist, geologist, farmer, medic, quartermaster, and scout, which are all new occupations with the colonization mod. So it's not, the originals would be pilot, scientist, and engineer. Pilot is basically the one who controls the ship. Scientist would be running science missions, you know, as parts and components on that ship. And then an engineer essentially repairs and replaces wheels and stuff like that. All right. And then we have the admin building. This admin building allows you to run like specialty missions. So like we can sell out our science for money or get bailout grants and stuff like that. This basically allows you to fudge what kind of rewards that you can get for the missions that you're running. And all right, and then we have the research and development. So this is the entire research tree. Oh man, so much going on in the chat here. Arclight and Saichi and Demand a Geek and Phoenix. Thanks for the gifted subs, bits, resubs. Let me get back to it. So we start off with really only a few parts here. Very, very, very basic, which is going to make it tough to run, you know, good missions. But just with a little bit of science, we'll be able to get some basic rocketry and engineering. And then as you tech up, we can make more informed choices, unlocking specialty parts and all. That would be an R&D. That's very, very important to do. Then we have the tracking station. The tracking station, without being upgraded, doesn't do very much. It just shows you your runways. So we have the desert airfield, the Woomerang, and then the Kerbal Space Center. The time, the days, the tracked objects, which would be, you know, debris and things that you put up in space. And the very first missions I'm going to take for mission control here. Gather scientific data from Kerbin, which is really any sort of science on Kerbin. That's really easy. And then launch our first vessel. That one is the easy ones. Escape from the atmosphere and orbit Kerbin are going to take a little while. So let's quickly build the first little rocket for our first little mission. I missed a pet Yoda? Yes, I did. Yoda actually was at the vet today and he was anesthetized, so I'm not going to mess with Yoda very much. He needs his rest. He's very loopy and out of it. He's fine though. He just had a teeth cleaning. All right. Another thing I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be naming my rockets after you guys. So my first rocket is the Angelia Good. What I'm going to be doing here is just throwing together a rocket that can fulfill launching our first vessel and gathering science. Those are extremely easy goals. So let's put a little command pod here. If you've never played Kerbal Space Program, here, the Angelia Good. Angelia Good MK1. If you've never played Kerbal Space Program, if you right-click on the rocket, it will show you some of the things that it can do. There are variants for colors, right? And then there is the inventory. So by default, as you can see, Jebediah is in here with his own parachute and his own EVA jetpack. These are actually kind of pointless because at the very start of the game, you're not even going to be able to exit your pod. So I actually don't need this stuff, but I'm just going to leave it in because it doesn't really matter. Then this pod itself has monopropellant, which I'm going to bring down to 0 because you don't need to launch with monopropellant. And yes, so Arclight asks, didn't I make one of the very first and quintessential tutorials of this game? Yeah, I made some tutorials on Steam so many ages ago that was essentially how to base build, how to assemble things in space and things like that. So I've been a long time. I've been a Kerbal Space Program player far longer than I've been a content creator. I'll put it that way. So the Angelia Good will need a parachute. Otherwise, Jebediah here is really not going to survive his first mission. And then we are going to slap on some goo containers. These goo containers just run, they're sort of generic science missions. And we are going to be able to get science by using these goo containers. In fact, yeah, I'm only going to do 2 goo containers. Another thing that's going to be important to to keep in mind is that it's very important to keep the center of the mass of your ship, like, centered. So you don't want, I'll show you something that would be bad. You don't want like a single goo container on one side and nothing on the other side, because if you add enough weight to one side of the rocket, not the other, it will start listing to the side that is weighted down. And in fact, there is a way to show you the center of mass and the center of thrust and all that stuff. So it's hard to tell because I haven't added a lot of weight, but let me add like something heavy on the side here. See this yellow ball? This yellow ball is now the center of mass. And as you can see, it would be very, very strange if I added something heavy next to it. So it's just important when you're designing your rocket to make sure that you're building symmetrically. And then you have tools down here where you can hit X to change its symmetry. So you can go up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, you know. But if I have two things on the either side, you know, it will be weighted correctly. And then the parachute is going to be able to manage it's going to be able to manage parachuting this little rocket safely. And what I did here is I brought the fuel down to just 10%. I don't really need to go anywhere on my first launch, so instead of blasting up, this is just going to be a very experimental launch. And then I'm going to see what other parts I have. I have some fins, but I don't really need fins. I don't need demolition charges. So I think we're good. This is really all the starting rocket is going to be. It's very, very, very basic. Then the last thing I want to do is separate these out to two different stages here. I might have to blow up the UI, so let me know if it's way too small. But essentially, I don't want my parachute and my thruster blasting off at the same time. That doesn't really make any sense. Yeah, check your staging. All right, let's go ahead and save the Angelia Good. And then launch it. I actually might take Jeb out of this craft, out of this this little rocket here, and put someone else instead. The reason for it would be I want to get as much science as I can. So let's revert the flight, or actually we could just recover the vessel and throw Bill. I think it's either Bob or Bill. I forget which one is our science officer, but we'll put him in. So vehicle assembly building. And let's see. In here. Oh yeah, here's the vessel naming. Okay, so this is the ship. Accept. And then want to go to launch. I think I can change the pilot. How many Kerbals has he killed? None yet. That's not what I meant to do. All right, well, whatever. I'm not going to switch Jeb out right now. So here is sort of your meat and potatoes. Let me explain the UI real quick. So you have your mission time. You've got your crew control, your signal strength to home if you have a remote controlled rocket. And then down here you have your staging. Here is the stage, the roll, pitch, yaw, and then docking mode, display settings, toggle map, maneuver mode, that kind of stuff. And then up here you have your messages. Messages would be like world records, mission completes, stuff like that. We have the fuel. This is the current missions that I'm on. This is my funds, science, reputation. So rockets need to be paid for. Upgrades to your station need to be paid for. Reputation, the higher your reputation are, the more difficult missions that you're given. And then science allows you to unlock new parts. And then here, we can show all. So this is sort of your staging for your thrust, your delta V, which is essentially how much you can travel. Delta V is kind of hard to describe, but delta V is basically how far you can get on you know, a full tank, I guess, is one way to look at it. And thrust to weight ratio, because if it's under a thrust to weight ratio of, like, let's say 10 or 1, you're not going anywhere. You need at least 1.0 something thrust to weight ratio to actually blast off. Then this is the cargo, if you have any cargo, like rovers or satellites, stuff like that. We have got the giant manual here on that button. This is servo controllers, basically robotics. This next button will be new to some of you. This is life support. So life support is essentially how much food, or rather how much supplies do you have. So as you can see, Jebediah Kerman is starving right now. He's not going to starve for a long time, but essentially I'm not feeding him. I have no supplies on the ship, but this ship isn't going very far, so it doesn't matter. And then the colonizing dashboard, the Wolf dashboard, which is like manufacturing, and then MechJeb. And I'm not going to get into MechJeb yet. All right, down here we have the sort of wheel, and I'm going to turn on SAS, which is stability control, and just hit spacebar to blast off. That was it. All right, I'm going to observe the goo container and take a crew report. And then once I land, I'm going to observe the other goo container. So the concept here is that Kerbin has a bunch of different biomes, and you can do science in those biomes. Now, I'm not going to really min-max the science I do in each biome on Kerbin. I find it very tedious and boring. But if you wanted to game the system so that you get as much science as you can get before you go into space, you could hypothetically even like build a rover and drive around and just get a bunch of science. But it's pretty boring. All right, now that we're landed, we can observe the other one. So this is observing the goo while on the launch pad. And then this one, if we review the data, is observe the goo while we're flying around Kerbin. So they're two different science experiments, one on launch pad, one flying around. I can also EVA and do an EVA report. So this is an EVA report, basically hanging out on the launch pad. And then I have, as you can see, completed my contracts. I have launched my first mission, I guess. So we can recover the vessel because I landed back pretty much where I blasted off, which is one of the reasons why I limited the amount of fuel that I had. The entire ship minus the fuel that I spent gets refunded. The closer you land to Kerbal Space Center, the more money that you'll get returned. So we earned, here as you can see, the crew report, 3.5 science, the EVA report, 2.4, the goo flying, 7, the goo landed, 3, and then the recovery of the vessel, 5. Then all the parts, we recovered 2761 of parts, and then Jebediah gained 1 XP for that launch. And then if we take a look at the mission control and go to the archives, here we launched our first vessel, so we're done. We got a bit of a money advance beforehand and then a completion. And the same with the gathering the scientific data from Kerbin. So with the 26.9 research that we have, the sound might be a little low. I could turn it up. With the research that we have, we're going to be able to unlock basic rocketry and engineering. And then we actually have enough to unlock survivability. Stability is 18, general rocketry is 20. We only have 16.9, so let's go for survivability. And survivability also unlocks life support mini packs, basically supplies to be able to feed and keep our Kerbals alive, which is an added level of complexity from the default game. All right. Well, with these new parts, we're going to be able to build more interesting rockets. We also massively increased the amount of money that we have. So I got about 2,700 funds back from the Angelia Good. The Angelia Good cost 27.69, and we got like 27 something. So basically, we didn't get the fuel back because I burned it, but everything else came back. feel like this music is way too loud. It's one of the problems I have playing this game is the rockets, as I'm sure you all are aware, tend to be extraordinarily loud. So it's really tricky to try to keep the volumes in check. So the next landmark missions, the landmark missions are ones that you cannot decline. So as you can see here, mousing over it, it doesn't allow me to decline. I can decline other missions, and declining will lower my reputation. But the landmark missions, which would be escape the atmosphere and orbit Kerbin, are really only going to be able to be done. I could probably escape the atmosphere with more or less the technology I have now, but I won't be able to orbit. Orbiting will definitely require more technology unlocked. So one of the things that we could do is to take some quick money makers. So like testing a swivel liquid fuel engine while landed at Kerbin, that is so very easy to do. We'll take that. And then that's really the only super easy one. I'm looking at some of the other ones. Test the MK16 parachute in flight over Kerbin, which would be moving slow at a low altitude. We'll take this too. We'll do both of those. All right, so let's build a rocket for this little money-making mission. Chaos Dino, this will be your rocket. So let's start an entirely new rocket. This is the Chaos Dino. Let's do MK1, Mark 1. So let's delete these old missions. We want to test a swivel while landed, and then a parachute at 4,000 meters up, while moving somewhere between 40 to 190 meters per second. So here is the swivel. The issue, of course, is I really don't have large tanks for the swivel. Here's the little swivel. And then, let me remove one extra tank. Then on top, let's see. I'm not going to need a heat shield. I'm really not going far enough to warrant it. It wants me to test the parachute. But while I'm up there on this mission, I might as well bring 2 thermometers, 2 barometers. I don't think I need any more. Well, I'll bring 2 goo containers because I'm going to be landing and I'll get refunded. But I don't think they're really going to make me any money. There. So this will allow me to do a few more missions, barometric pressure and temperature, which will be helpful. So it wants me to test the MK16, which is this parachute. And then just in case, here, let me move my, I think we'll be all right. This will be the little Chaos Dino. It's not that sexy, but I'm actually, no, that's fine. I'll have fuel to burn. All right, let's save it. And let's try to make that money. Make that quick money. As you can see in the About command, I haven't played Kerbal Space Program in like years. I really haven't played since the last, I mean, you could tell me actually how long it has been, because I haven't played since the last YouTube series has ended. So as a result, yeah, I'm definitely rusty, and I'm not going to be doing like single stage to orbit, you know, with no research or anything like that. You know, there just really isn't an advantage for me to even bother trying. Okay, the barometric pressure here, we can actually take measurements while landed, so might as well. There is a little bit of a diminishing return, so as you can see here, the mystery goo sitting on the landing pad will not give me full, but it will give me partial science. All right, let's go ahead and make sure that we run our test. So if we take a look here, if we click on this, you can pin it so that you can see the requirements. So we need to be flying at least 4,000 meters up, but no more than 11,000 meters, and moving at least 40 meters per second, but no faster than 190. All right, so I am going to keep my speed between 40 and 190, and then all I really need to do is hit my parachute when we get the altitude that we need. Very, very, very simple. And the reason for liquid rocket over the solid fuel is I can have variable thrust, which allows me to keep my speed within a certain range. Where, there we go. That's it. Done. And then while we're up here, let's go ahead and log the pressure data and log the temperature data, and then get more mystery goo readings. Now, the only other thing is that this craft here is a little bit heavier because it has liquid fuel left. So if my parachute doesn't seem like it's going to be able to cut it, slow me down enough, I can use some light thrusting to slow myself down so I don't go splash. But very, very simple little mission there. So the parachute isn't enough, so I had to I actually had to accelerate myself, as you saw. Before I go any further, I should sort of explain. Most parts will resist about 8 meters per second impact. Any higher and you'll break stuff. If it's too high, you'll die. So I saw when my parachute actually deployed, because it will act like a drogue chute, which is like just to slow it down but not fully deploy. Once it fully deployed, I was moving faster than 9 meters per second, and I had to actually manually thrust. And a lot of that is just because these fuel tanks here are about a third full, which adds weight, which is a problem. But we landed. Nothing happened. Next time we'll add more parachutes. And we did achieve both of our contracts. We tested the swivel, and we tested the parachute in its very specific requirements. And now we can recover the vessel and get our money back. Okay. So we got 23 science earned for a total now of 31. The parts were 100% value refunded. Basically, I'm launching rockets for free because I keep landing back at Kerbal Space Center. And then no XP gain for Jeb because he's already done a low, a low trajectory, low elevation launch. But what this will allow me to do is unlock general rocketry, which puts a little bit more thrust. So that gives me a larger liquid fuel, a much larger solid fuel, and a better in vacuum engine. Let's see here. I think I am going for... Let's go for an escape the atmosphere. But see if we can't do something else while we do that. So I'm going to accept the escape the atmosphere. And then... all this wants me to do... well, Now, I might not be able to do this parachute mission. The reason being, its speed requirements might be too sensitive. Yeah, I'm only going to try to escape the atmosphere on this run. Angelia, thanks for the bits, by the way. You had it muted. You didn't even know you had a rocket named after you? Well, congrats. All right, let's build a rocket that will break atmo. So we'll do a new one. Now I should explain some things first. If you Google Kerbal Space Program Delta V map, I could just link it to you. So here is a link. You need a certain amount of delta V, which is change in velocity, delta being the symbol for change, in order to break Kerbin's atmosphere. And it's about 3,400 delta V. And that's not to orbit. You would need another roughly 1,100 delta V to achieve an orbit. So we're going to need to make a rocket here that can produce about 3,400 delta V, which I might not be able to do with current parts, but we'll see. And this rocket will be the Cheese Radar Deluxe. First one to space. Cheese Radar Deluxe Mark 1. So let's throw a little Cheese Radar together. So we're definitely going to want a parachute. And this rocket here, I might also add, probably it's not coming home intact. It's not to say that I'm going to break it or anything. It's just that there's not really an expectation that I'm going to get the whole thing home. So, yeah. So, what I'm doing now is I'm building this part here is what's going to re-enter. This is a heat shield to keep the rest of the ship from overheating. And all it has is a few science parts and a parachute. That's it. That's it. And then underneath the heat shield, I'm going to attach a decoupler, which will have its own stage, which will be able to jettison everything off of the underside of this rocket, allowing this rocket to re-enter safely. Because if we're trying to exit the atmosphere, we then also have to re-enter the atmosphere, and we're likely to have a very steep re-entry, a very hot re-entry. Actually, that's not true. A hot re-entry, if you picture, do I have something circular? My head. If you picture my head, a hot re-entry would be one where you're skimming the atmosphere continually as you like circle closer. Like, you know, imagine something swirling down a drain. That would be like it's called aerobraking. That would be produce the most amount of heat. Basically coming straight in produces the least amount of heat, but it can be very, very difficult to slow down in time. I don't really need to go into that, but what I do need to do is design the rest of this rocket with the Delta V in mind. So this is going to be probably a 2-stage rocket. The other thing that I need to consider is that there is a weight max. Here, let me leave the VAB right quick. I probably don't need a heat shield given the steep trajectory, but I'm going to make one anyway. So currently, the maximum vehicle weight and size is 20 meters and 18 tons. And I'm going to spend about a third of my cash to upgrade the launch pad. So now it can support 36 meters and 140 tons. Because I'm almost certainly going to be building a rocket that is just too heavy for the basic launch pad. So, and like everything I ever do, this is going to be over-engineered. Shamelessly, because I don't really care. I don't want to spend too much time making it perfect. All right, so I did say that we're looking to about, let's say, 3,500 delta V. That escapes the atmosphere. So if I show all here, is this launchable? Okay, yeah, it is launchable. It hasn't exceeded the height or weight yet, which is good. And yes, it's going to be a very unappealing, aesthetically unappealing rocket. That's just the way it is. All right, revert back to assembly, because I don't have a lot of parts to make it look nice. I don't even have radial decouplers, you know? So, we are very, very basic. So, let's see. What does my delta V show? I'm going to reduce the thrust of this phase down so that its thrust to weight ratio is just above 1. This doesn't even seem right. Oh, because it's... yeah, okay, I see. So let's try 35 thrust limiter. That gives me a thrust weight ratio of 0.9, so let's try 40. 42. The answer to everything. That gives me a thrust ratio of 0.08. I'm reading it aloud because I'm sure that's way too small for you guys to see. And then this phase up here, it can actually have a lower than 1 thrust to weight ratio because by the time this phase kicks off, it's going to have less gravity because it will be further from Kerbin. So, yeah. We'll give that a thrust limiter of 35. Let's save that. Then the other concern would be it listing or flipping. And because I have a very limited amount of parts, this first rocket might do some cartwheels and I might revert. But this is what it's going to look like because I don't really have any other parts. You know, if I click through here, I do have some life support stuff, but we're not going far enough. I'm not leaving for 14 days or anything like that, so that's not really needed. Yeah. So I guess we're good. And launch. Now this, of course, yeah, this might flip. Now, if I didn't want to revert, I could just land it. I could just, whoa, already wobbling. I could just decouple everything and land it normally. All right, Jeb. Thrust rate ratio of just above 1. The game will tell you, and like a lot of tutorials will tell you that like a 1.1 thrust to weight is ideal. You don't actually need it. So I'll put it this way. If you try to floor it, like if I thrust limited this up to max thrust, it's actually less efficient. And currently, yeah, this rocket is definitely listing to 90, which would be convenient if I was trying to orbit, but I'm not. And I am trying to fight against it tipping. Now, how many parts do I have? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. I have 21 parts on this ship, and I'm going to be limited from the VAB. But let me just show you, like, if I wanted to abandon this, because obviously this rocket isn't going up so much as is going for a nice, weird, low orbit. Or I wouldn't even say orbit. A suborbital trajectory. It's actually pretty easy to abandon. So I'll show you that. Like if I wanted to just be... Ooh. Nope. Come on. Yeah, I need more fins. Yeah, if I came down into the water, it would be a new biome. And I would get science. How's my... Yeah, my Apple Apps is way below 80. And I don't think we're going to reach that 80 current with the current angle that we're launching at. I can't seem to right the ship without more wings. I could reset to VAB. I just wanted to show that, like, this isn't necessarily a death trip for Jebediah. No, I don't know. I think we might actually get to space in this thing. Whoa, nope, I'm hitting a lot of air resistance here. If we were pointed up, we would be getting to space. This has plenty of delta V for going to space. The other worry is how much because we're like accelerating in the atmosphere, we're building up a lot of heat. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to prove that this isn't a death trip, even though it is heating up now, but it's only going to heat up the goo containers. It would be a good light show for everybody that lives in the ocean. All right, let's revert and see if a few more fins is going to allow us to stay more vertical. I only have basic fins, which sucks. I don't particularly care for basic fins, but what we got. I think this here is going to be too many parts. No, don't do that. Line that bit better. Oh no, it's apparently not too many parts. And yeah, that would be some hot, hot goo. Hey, buddy. Wobble, wobble. So I'm using WSD, if you're wondering, to try to stay up. But these basic fins essentially gives you no control. They're not control surfaces. You do get fins and inline reaction wheels later on that are a little bit better. But this one's staying far more vertical than the last one, which is good. I'm just trying to... No, already going 90. Stop it. No, tilting to 45. I think what might be actually easier is if we have 4x symmetry and I remove some of the fins. Let me try that. Because we're going to be part count limited. So the reason for 4x symmetry is the thrust will be more equal. But I don't know if I have the part count for this. So what is my thrust to weight ratio? It's fine. Oh, no, apparently we have enough parts. Cool. Yeah, put the fins as low as possible. I could have them a little bit lower. I basically am not in control of this ship. The thrust is... There is no, Yeah, I don't even know what Jeb's doing here, because he's just kind of in for the ride. This is all solid fuel. Basically, it's like I'm a... You know, I have no thrust vectoring, yeah, because it's all solid fuel. So it is essentially just like a bullet that I'm riding. What I could do is I could replace the center core with liquid for some thrust vectoring. But given that I'm just trying to blast off, I don't even really care where I'm going. It just has to be roughly up. That's it. And we might be managing it this time. It's funny. At a force of habit, I'm like pushing harder and harder and harder into my keys pointlessly. It's not like the keyboard knows that I'm pushing hard and like, you know, whatever. It's just not how this works, but... Alright, so we're about halfway out the you know, we're mostly through the thicker atmosphere. As you climb, it gets thinner and thinner and thinner. And, no, reset that experiment. Alright. This has fins in the wrong spot. But, my Apple apps, whoa, nope, yep, we're flipping. Whee! So sometimes when you flip like this, you could just like cartwheel back to forward. But if this doesn't work, I can just change the fin configuration. All we're trying to do is just get out of the atmosphere, though, which is, I think, going to be easy to accomplish, even though we're flip-flopping. And now that we're in a new biome, because we're higher up in the atmosphere, let me grab some science. And yeah, this thing is definitely going to space. Imperfect, very crude, and totally works. So, you know, look, Ma, no hands. So one of the things I could try to do is try to line this up so that I go back to Kerbal Space Center, but as you can see, this rocket is like hell-bent on just going, I don't even know where. To the moon! And I'm in space. So let me do a crew report, because this rocket is trying to blast back to Kerbin in a very terrible way. So let me get my science. There it is. Rocket, could you stop, like, launching to the ground? I'll be able to separate out, because it's out of fuel now. Alright, bye, loser. So here's my little pod, my home sweet home. And this is what we're going to bringing back home. Definitely landing in some ocean, but that allows me to do an EVA report in the deep ocean, which is fine. All right, let's speed time up a bit. And now you can see the benefit of the heat shield. It has a blader that you know, has a certain durability, and as it absorbs heat, it depletes. Toaster mode, yep. There we are. We've slowed enough that we're no longer burning. And Operation Ocean Splash is a go. So now at this point, I can hit my parachute. We're not moving too fast, and the atmosphere is thick enough. Deploy that chute. This vessel in no way is too heavy for the chute. We will make a very gentle splashdown. And here we go. Yeah, and there's the moon. Way out there in the horizon, the eventual target. There we are. It's deployed. And then I'll do a EVA report in the ocean. Is that Minmus? I don't know which one is which. There's two of them and they look the same to me. Splash down. Everything's intact. And let's go for a little swim. Do an EVA report from Kerbin's water for 3 science. And board it again. Oh, come on, board. And recover the vessel. So I'm not going to get full refund for this vessel. I'll probably get like, I don't know, 30% or something. As a result of being way too far from Kerbal Space Center. But it's something. Let's see, it's still 90%. I wasn't that far off from the ocean. It was only 161 kilometers away. So we gained 73.2 science. As you can see here, we gained... Most of the science was the atmospheric and mystery goo from space and upper atmosphere. But that's a lot of science that we can put towards technology. And then we are now at about 250,000. So our money went up nicely. I don't think I'm ready to orbit just yet. I'm going to have to unlock some things, but let's decide to unlock some things. So let's get stability, because the winglet would be nice. As you can see, the winglet here, you know, it's much larger than the basic fin. And then the radial decouplers and the aerodynamic nose cone is very nice too. And then we have 86 left. Let's get advanced rock. No, what do I want? Ooh. I think I'm actually going to get basic science, because we'll invest some science into getting more science. So basic science gives us the science junior, which will allow us to do even more science experiments to easily then be able to unlock advanced rocketry. It's not going to be that hard to unlock advanced rocketry. In fact, let's do it right now. So I'm not even going to name this one because it's basically not going to be a rocket. So, new. I'm not even going to put a human in it. If you wanted, you could also build a rover to drive this thing around and collect science. So this will be Cybot Mark 1. And this is my launch. It gets fully refunded, so it doesn't really matter. It's basically just a science collector. So, collect. That gives me 7 science. There is diminishing returns here, but I'm just going to, because this is all free, right? I'm just going to log everything here. No, the pressure doesn't give me anything. Pressure and temperature tends not to. And recover the vessel. All right, Cybot. Congratulations on your maiden voyage, and you have netted me 9 science. Yep, and that's all I need for the next level of rocketry. So now with the advanced rocketry, we get larger liquid fuel tanks and then radial liquid engines. You want it named after Nightbot? So, let me see. I think at this point, I would like to upgrade my vehicle assembly building, so I'm not constricted by 30 max parts, but they cost too much. So I'm gonna be aiming to make some money. So let's take a look. If I haul a fleece solid booster to 17,000 meters moving fastish, yeah, let's see if any of these line up. Ideally what you want to do is you want to oh, this one's easy. Suborbital spaceflight. Now, a suborbital spaceflight is just like up and down. Yeah, let's open to tourists, I guess. This makes some money, and it gives me a lot of reputation for the completion bonus. Okay. And this will be named after one of you guys. This will be the XARC 404. Now this is gonna look real weird. So Cybot, bye-bye. Don't save. So the XARC, I'll just call it the XARC Mark 1. So we're bringing tourists. So the weird thing is, I am going to need, this is gonna look super goofy. I don't believe I have any modules that allow me to bring tourists along. So as a result, we are gonna have this strange, yeah, this very, very, very strange sort of variant here, where the other pods here are going to be for the tourists, and then Jeb's going to be in the middle. Yep. Okay. Yep. So a suborbital spaceflight. This doesn't need to go that high, so I'm not that worried about that. This is so weird. Yeah, let's just, you know what I could do? Let's see here. Do I have radial parachutes yet? What is this? High gain antenna. Yeah, I do have some radial parachutes. So, hi tourists, and welcome to your doom. Well, we'll see. I don't think I really even need to do very much on this mission, because suborbital, this hurts your eyes. Well, you know, it pays the bills. And, yeah, we didn't actually put anyone in here. So let's revert to assembly. I'll be throwing some fins for stability. And no, I'm not even gonna decouple, I don't think. Man, it has been too long. How do I the launching? Oh, I forget how to put tourists in. Oh, crew. Yeah, there we are. All right, 1 and 2. Save. And Valentina, you want to launch on this one? And launch. So I'm curious if suborbital, I think, is what, edge of space? So this this booster here won't have the delta V to achieve edge of space. So I'm gonna have to redesign this. I was just wondering how fussy the mission would be. I'm mostly doing this to see about starvation, if tourists... So tourists do eat, but I'm not gonna be up here for 14 days. So it's fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stage this just like the Cheese Radar Deluxe that I had to achieve a suborbital launch. So just on the solid booster alone, I got about halfway to space. That's as ridiculous as this thing must look. It's, I mean, it functions, right? So let's go ahead and have a decoupler here, which looks... Actually, let's flip this decoupler, which looks absurd. And then I'll use radial decouplers and launch the rest. Just a bunch of solid boosters. A little lower. Okay, looks good. Then stage it, and then change its thrust so that it's basically maximum efficiency. All right, that works. And then this stage down, perfect. Okay. That is maybe not enough. No, that should bring us to the edge of space, I think. Then the last things I'm gonna do is just throw some winglets. All right, let's hope that I min-max this Exarch Mark I as well as I can. Go away, life support status. I don't want you. Go away. If only I had struts. All right, Hilzer and Hillpont. Strap in. Because Valentine has never launched anything in her life. It's a very smooth ride so far. In fact, this is Valentina's view. How do I exit the view again? B? I forget the change view key. But here's Hillpont or Hilzer, Hilzer's view. Yeah, C. It was C. You're right. All right, wobbly engines. What's our APO? Very, very low APO. Oh, they're smiling. They don't realize in what amount of peril they're facing right now. Also, their pods are upside down and they don't even seem to notice. So that works. Yeah, brand new pilot. Let's give her a taxi run. Exactly. My thoughts exactly. All right, our APO is, yeah, this is a space run. I'm pretty sure we're getting up to this one. All right, next phase. I can control this a little bit better. Whoa! They collided with one another below. And yeah, no problem. In fact, I have too much fuel. All right, let's, here is Dear Hilzer's view. Oh, the edge of space. Nice. And then Hillponts. Beautiful. The things I do for money, right? And we are in space. I guess I could have slapped one of those little science-y doohickeys to this thing if I wanted to, you know, min-max my efforts here. What I'm going to try to do is, like, land back at Kerbal Space Center as best as I can for refunds, even though it is just 3 pods, they're coming back. And if we open up the contracts, let's click that. Hilzer and Hillpont they have not yet entered space formally, but easily this thing is going to do it. There it is. Now they just have to survive. But, you know, whatever. That's a technicality. Ta-da! Whee! Alright, time to make them barf. And all of a sudden, I have... Oh god, it's ripping the ship apart. Hold on, slow down. The centrifugal force started to pull the ship apart. Alright, how about we roll instead? A little bit better, right? Nope, it's pulling my, that doesn't look right. Thank you for watching Kerbal Space Program, which originally aired live on Twitch. If you have any feedback for me, let me know in the comments below. If you would like to catch a live stream of mine, Rhadamant.com has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams. If you liked this stream, or specifically this episode, please consider voting for Kerbal Space Program in the future when it comes up in the polls. Thank you all for watching. I'll catch you next episode, or perhaps an upcoming stream. Farewell.